How genuinely grateful are you for your work, your employees, and other aspects of your work and life? Research shows that leaders who practice workplace gratitude help foster more compassion and consideration amongst their colleagues and team members, while reducing stress, increasing happiness, and creating genuine and powerful relationships. And one way a leader can show that gratitude or express that compassion is through feedback, which sadly, very few so-called leaders do. So in this episode, we're going to be discussing the importance of gratitude to you, your team, and your success. The difference between thankfulness and gratefulness. The benefits of a grateful culture. And lastly, tips for practicing and embedding gratitude into your life, into your team, and into the workplace culture. Stay with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Shedding the Corporate Bitch, the podcast that transforms female corporate executives into powerhouse leaders by showing them how to shed the challenges and overwhelm, along with any fear, insecurity, self-doubt, and negativity holding them back. I'm your host, Bernadette Bose of Ball of Fire Coaching, bringing you powerhouse discussions each week to share tips, advice, and sometimes tough love so you create the riches in your work and life you deserve. Let's do this. I can't help but wanting to kick off this episode all around gratitude by expressing my own gratitude to you, to the community, to just the love that I've been showered with over the last 12 or 14 years of doing Shedding the Corporate Bitch. We've been through a lot of ups and downs together. We've been through a lot of changes and a lot of shifts and transformations. And that is what I am eternally grateful for, because it has fulfilled so many of my, not only goals, but my life passions, my why and my purpose, which is to really empower and to give back to those that may have their own journey, may have their own struggles, may have their own desires and ambitions and passions, and are just not sure about what they need to be doing in order to not only pursue it, but achieve it. And then coming together as a community, reaching out to one another, reaching out to me reaching out to you, and really ensuring that you have what you need in order to have those fabulous aha moments and those grateful experiences to where you are indeed feeling gratitude for everything that you have in your life, the good and the bad, the easy and the hard, as well as just the opportunities and the struggles. And so I just want to express and be thankful by thanking you for just the ongoing, consistent, long-term showing up and being part of this community and giving me a reason why I absolutely, absolutely love getting up and working with you, working with my clients, partnering with you, discussing with you, collaborating with you. It just gives me so much joy. I am eternally grateful for it. Our subject today is gratitude, and is really ensuring gratitude is brought into the workplace. We certainly focus on it and have it and possess it when it comes to our families and our friends and our life. However, leaders really need to understand how important and how much of a differentiator it is to them, to their teams, to the business, if they bring gratitude into the workplace. Now, I know for me, just to be usually upfront and frank about it, I would have to say that in my 25 years plus in corporate, in my very ambitious, aggressive time period, gratitude was the last thing on my mind. It was seen, even by myself, let alone from other people, as a potential weakness. If you were overly grateful, overly sharing, overly, emotional and huggy with those around you. And yet that's a sad, sad, sad statement. It really is. That's a sad, sad reality. And yet it still exists today. Progress is being made in, leaders and their workers really wanting to bring authenticity and transparency and compassion and empathy into the workplace. However, like I had mentioned in the opening, one real key consideration of gratitude is through the expression of feedback, good, bad, or ugly. And I have often talked about here on Shedding the Corporate Bitch, the fact that employees with, every cell of their body is screaming for feedback. They don't even care that it might be bad or it might be of, kind of sensitive, or it could create some, negative emotions within them. They just want the feedback. They just want your expression of being thankful for them, and yet at the same time also being grateful for them. And we're going to talk about the differences between the two. But your employees are screaming for it. And I bet, because if you're anything like me, I too wanted it. Now, I might have acted as if I don't. Oh, I don't need praise. I don't need feedback. I don't need, to know what I'm doing great, or, what I'm struggling with. But I would have been lying to myself. And I was lying to myself, because we all need it. We all need affirmation. We all need constructive criticism. We all need that feedback as to how we're doing and what we could be doing better or differently. So we're going to kind of weave that in, the whole subject of feedback, when it comes to what you could be doing as a leader to express your gratitude. So first off, studies have found that leaders who express appreciation, thankfulness, are more influential, more respected. They're happier, both at work and in their home life. And in a Glassdoor survey, 81% of employees said they would work harder for a grateful boss. And best of all, positive recognition is contagious. All right. That's from Glassdoor. And if you think about it, truly think about it, we all know, and we've heard it for years, that employees leave companies, leave teams, leave departments, not because of the work, not because of even kind of their lack of opportunities and advancement, but they leave because of the person that they're working for. And so I don't know about you, but if you're here listening or watching this and you're looking to be a powerhouse leader, and powerhouse leaders don't want that. Do you? No, we don't want that. We don't want our employees leaving, especially when we have strong, high potential employees, or those that are on the uptick of becoming that high potential. So we need to address it. We need to figure out and be asking the right questions to understand then what is it that they need. And, I'll give you a shortcut straight to me, having spoken to hundreds of employees and their managers over the last just 8 or 9 months as a result of a project I was doing. They want signs of appreciation. They want attaboys. They want thanks for, stretching yourself. Thanks for taking on that challenge. Thanks for, covering for your peers, whatever the case might be. They want meaningful recognition. And yet at the same time, the number one, what should I call it? The number one thing they said that would be meaningful. It's not money. It's not gift cards. It's not a lunch. It's not the usual things that many managers kind of expect that and actually act on when it comes to recognition. It is that feedback. It is that verbal acknowledgement, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's in a group, which would be fabulous, whether it's, behind closed doors as a sponsor or an advocate. They just want feedback. And it's not just during performance reviews, at the beginning of the year and mid-year. Gratitude is just contagious. It's just expansive. And you start expressing gratitude, being thankful, overtly, and I'll call it overtly, meaning that you actually are demonstrating and behaving in that way, then the next thing you know, all your other employees, your peers, your managers start recognizing it, and they start to express it as well. If you start to demonstrate gratitude, then those around you will do the same. Okay, so you have a lot of influence, you have a lot of power and a lot of opportunity to change not only your trajectory, but also your teams individually and as a collective, and overall your success. Okay, so I want to also first kind of back up a little bit and explain the difference between thankfulness and gratefulness, because I think oftentimes we confuse it, and that's okay. That's okay as long as we're expressing our appreciation. So what's the difference? Well, thankfulness is almost kind of temporary, momentarily. You're thankful for someone doing something, for saying something, for something happening to you, but it's short term. It's kind of on the surface, you are thankful. For instance, if someone saves you a parking spot, you're not going to be grateful to that person, but you're going to be thankful for it because they saved you this parking spot. I mean, that's just a really simple example to discuss it. So it's short-lived, it's momentary, it's temporary. It definitely is an expression of your emotion and how you're receiving, someone helping you, or someone supporting you, or someone being there when, you needed help. But it's not necessarily deep-seated, heart-moving, almost like bringing you to tears type of gratitude for something that is so much deeper and more powerful of an experience that you've had. And therefore it literally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally moves you and shifts you. And it's long lasting. So think about it. Last experience you might have had with someone or something, or an encounter where you kind of walked away and were just moved by it, like deeply moved, deeply felt by that individual, by that experience, by that thing, whatever the case might be, to where, when you recount it right now, maybe moments, days, weeks, years later, it still moves you. It still brings you back to that expression, that emotion, that gratefulness that you felt. So gratefulness is definitely much, deeper, and it stays with you. Whereas thankfulness, you can be thankful for someone by, simply thanking them. Thank you. But at the same time, you kind of thank them and move on. And that's okay. That's okay. So even at work, let's tie it to work. And then I'm going to give you an example of something that happened to me several weeks ago that just, brought me to tears. But so at work, it could be, thank you for covering for, your peer that was out. I know you didn't need to do it. I know you had plans this weekend. So I'm very, thankful that you were available to be able to cover for that. Now, could you be grateful for that? Well, that's up to you. Do you walk away and you just hold on to it and, oh, I'm just so grateful for Joe? Was it such a impact on you that, you actually, deeply embed it, and it stays with you as you move on into your day, week, month, year? Or is it just that you're thankful? You appreciate the fact that they stepped up. You appreciate that they received, difficult feedback openly and constructively, and they didn't get defensive. And you were worried about that. You were, nervous to go into that, conversation of conflict. And therefore you're thankful that it went as well as it did. Those are levels of thankfulness. Now, gratitude could be where you've had a health issue or a tragedy in your family life, and your boss and your company as a whole, just really fully supported you and kind of brought down all of the love onto you, take time off. We're not going to reach out to you. You need to take care of your family. Here's meals, for you and the family. Don't worry about anything here. Well, that's much deeper than a thank you. That's you're feeling grateful about. And as I'm even expressing this example, I recall when my father, back in 2004, he, suddenly was being brought home into Philadelphia, into hospice. And the nurses, were sharing with me, because I was the only one away, that it'll be very soon, 2 or 3 days at max. And so I raced home. I was in North Carolina working, consulting at the time. And I raced home to be by his side, along with my 11 brothers and sisters and my mother. And he actually, kind of stayed on and stayed with us for almost 2 weeks. And that experience with the hospice nurses and with what my father was going through and what all my brothers and sisters and us as a family were going through, and the ultimate beauty of his passing, I was so grateful for the hospice experience. I could start crying now. I was so grateful to my family and the way that we were all coming together and handling it. I was so unbelievably grateful for how my work stepped in. And even though I can work remote, and I have for 30 some odd years, my boss was like, no way. You are not to be contacted. You are not to be touched. You need to be there for your family. Even as this 2 to 3 days, lingered into a week, then started, moving into a second week, my entire team, my entire company just rallied around me and just took care of me and my family in such a way that I actually could start crying right now, but I won't. So that's gratitude. Make sense? Difference between thankfulness, temporary, fleeting, momentary, to gratefulness being really deep seated. So I said I had another example for you between thankfulness and gratitude that had happened to me several weeks ago. And that would be, I was down in South Carolina taking care of a couple's, a friend's house and their puppies. You all know how much I love my puppies. And so I was down there for 3 weeks or so, taking care of, their house and their pups. And so when they returned, they expressed how thankful they were that, I'm kind of dependable. I love dogs, and I really, take care of their property, their home, and their, loved ones, which are their puppies. They were very thankful for that. But it turned into gratitude when we were having a conversation, and that's a story in itself. But we were having a conversation, and I was sharing how I was looking to spend more time in that area, this part of South Carolina, and that I was already looking for some, places to rent, that I could work remote, or I can travel back to Atlanta or wherever my customer needs to send me. And as I'm having this conversation, they started expressing their gratitude and their love for me in such a way, and our friendship in such a way but they started expressing that they indeed felt friendship for me, and therefore, they would absolutely refuse any idea of me going into that area and renting. They opened their home to me. They said, they opened and welcomed me into their home. And I was sitting in the backseat of their car as we're driving from the airport, and they're sharing this with me. And it took every ounce of energy not to just break down and bawl, just break down in tears. And it was really because the what they were emoting, the friendship and the love and the appreciation and the thankfulness and the gratitude, was just so moving to me. And I could start crying now, thinking and reliving the conversation and the way I was feeling during that conversation and the way they were expressing it. As a matter of fact, he's Italian and they were coming back from Italy. And as I was kind of pushing back, oh, no, no, that's not necessary. And, I can pay my rent and I can, find a place of my own. As I'm expressing that, of course, when I'm not really good at receiving, I'm still working on it. But they're expressing this. He says something in Italian and I'm like, I don't know what that means. And he said, well, it means in, English translation would be, don't dishonor my gift by saying no. I'm offering you a gift out of friendship. And so don't dishonor that by saying no. Anyway, so that to me, still, like I said, stays with me. That's gratitude. And therefore, is gratitude relevant to a leader in the workplace? Well, absolutely, absolutely, yes. And I shared with you the example that I had with my boss in my company while my father was passing. And yet at the same time, like I said, I speak to hundreds and hundreds of employees and their managers, and they don't even connect some of their expression to be gratitude, and yet it is. And I think they hesitate for the reasons I mentioned earlier, which is, that fear of, well, they're being too nice. They're going to be considered a doormat. There's, too much fluff, too much emotion. That's not appropriate in the workplace, so forth and so on. And I'll be damned that that I would want you to be thinking that, let alone acting on that. Deep-seated gratitude for the work, the contribution, the sacrifices, the compromises, the conflicts, the challenges, the opportunities that are presented to you and your team members, as well as your peers and the rest of the company. There is gratitude in that. There's thankfulness, absolutely, absolutely. And if you're not thanking and attaboying and that kind of thing on a regular basis to your team members and colleagues, then shame on you. But there are those instances of gratitude, and I heard them, dozens of them out of the hundreds and hundreds. I heard those expressions of gratitude experiences, and yet they kind of like fell deaf on a lot of the leaders, a lot of the, the managers of these employees, and vice versa. And so it is very relevant and very critical in the workplace as much as in your social and personal life. And it, like I said, it is a differentiator. You start expressing your gratitude, your thankfulness to your employees, to your peers, to the business, so forth and so on. And it all of a sudden, as I mentioned, is contagious. And all of a sudden, it also gets recognized and differentiates you from many, 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 the majority of other so-called leaders. All right. So in what way, and especially when we think about the workplace, in what way and places is gratitude showing up? Well, gratitude shows up even your past, present, and future. So, and we'll stick with the work dynamic. So in the past, it's all the hard work and the crap and the successes that you've had. So, and it's all the lessons and the experiences that you took from it and those things that made you who you are today. So there's gratitude in the past, in all of those hard times, great times, ups and downs, successes and failures. There's so much gratitude that you can bring with you to where you are right now for the person that you are right now and the leader that you are right now. There's also gratitude in what you're dealing with right now. I have learned and I've put into practice that even when shit is hitting the fan, even when I'm getting stressed out over something or I'm getting triggered by something, because I have my triggers, that I can immediately pull myself back and be grateful for what it is I'm experiencing and what it is that I'm feeling and what it is that I'm going to use as a result of this in order to work my way through it. And there's many instances where it gets so deep seated that I was so grateful that that was happening. And then I recognized it was happening and I shifted my focus and I worked my way through it. It was much deeper than thankful. I have probably tens of thousands of instances of thankfulness through the day, but there's also those grateful moments, experiences, encounters, challenges, opportunities that, we could be dealing with right now. I'm grateful to be here. I love doing this show. And I love, hearing and reading your experiences with it. And so there's gratitude there. All right. And then again, there's also gratitudes in the challenges, really kind of because it shows you what you're made of. And so why not be grateful for that? It could be the contributions, the receiving, the giving from others that you're then grateful for. And we talked about those from the workplace. It could be, your workers, it could be your bosses, it could be things they're helping you with as personally, as the examples I gave, or it could be that they're doing their job, but they're also going far beyond it. There's so many examples you could be thinking of as far as how the contribution of others is also something you could be grateful for. And then, quite honestly, if you looked at the what, where, when, and when, why, and how, there's things in all of that you can be grateful for. Now, I mentioned that oftentimes people confuse gratefulness and thankfulness when it comes to like when they journal. If you are one who practices gratitude, I have done it multiple times, through my life. But I have to say and admit that not consistently, not every day. I journal every day. I don't necessarily purposely, intentionally, consciously, then focus on my gratitudes. But where people get confused when it comes to that is they'll sit down, they'll say, well, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my, this blue sky. I'm grateful for the birds chirping. I'm grateful for, my day off. And are you grateful? Are those deep-seated, moving, transformative type of experiences, or are you thankful for those things? Why do you really want to focus intentionally on gratitudes when you're journaling? Is because, again, these are experiences, encounters, events that move you, that transform you in such a way, in some way, even if it's really small, that you literally can kind of recall and feel and, appreciate and relish in again and again. And therefore, if there are those type of experiences and things in your world right now that you want to acknowledge and express, then that's really where you want to be intentional and focus, as opposed to just scribbling really quick without much thought about what you're thankful for. Really being intentional about considering what you're grateful for in your life creates an energy that's like 1,000, 10,000 times stronger than your thanks. And therefore, that's when the gratitude swell is created. And so you just want to really be looking at, the what, where, when, how, why, the contributions of others that you're grateful for, which could be not only from a work perspective, but support, help, donation, whatever, charity, whatever it could be. You want to look at the challenges that are ahead, as well as what's happened, in your past, which could be 5 minutes ago, that has also influenced who you are right now. All right. So that's how you really want to be looking at gratitude. And again, start bringing that in. Show up at work in a nasty mood and sit down, because you don't want to be in that space for the rest of the day. Sit down and recall something you're grateful for, not just thankful, but grateful for, and your shift will move. Your mood will shift. All right. Your mood will shift. You cannot be in a negative, pessimistic, bad mood when you're really living in gratitude. You just can't. It's, just totally, I don't know the neuroscience behind it, but it's just totally contradictory to one another. If you're in a bad mood and you want to shift into a good space, then really just intentionally, purposely, consciously recall an experience where you were grateful and really feel it, live in it. And I can guarantee you that mood will shift. All right. It's like I tell my clients all the time, if you want a simple little tip and you go out into the world and you're in a negative space, smile. Smile for yourself and smile from the inside out. Like, just don't put a grin on your face, but smile. Think of something, feel something that'll make you smile. One, it'll completely shift you. Your whole chemistry, brain waves will be shifted. At the same time, just then witness how that it then is projected and received back from other people. Someone who smiles at you, you can't not smile back, right? So, and I do this a lot myself when I go out and maybe I'm not paying attention, maybe I'm distracted, maybe I'm frustrated or aggravated or angst. And all of a sudden I'll realize that I'm in that space and I'll just simply smile internally. And then seeing someone else smile back, and then even if they don't, that smile within me shifts. All right. So that leads to the benefits of gratitude. Why is it so important? Well, we talked about it. It shifts your mood. So your energy, your positivity, your attitude, your everything. So why not? Why wouldn't you? Right? If you're having you got out of the wrong side of the bed and you're having a nasty morning, why wouldn't you want to use the power of gratitude to get out of that space before you go out into the world? Excuse me. It definitely lowers stress for you, for those around you, let alone if you add with gratitude that expression of feedback to your employees. Because again, remember, employees stick around when they have a grateful boss who's expressing that gratefulness. So definitely a lot of, less stress and more satisfaction, more happiness, more fulfillment, more appreciation, more compassion. You definitely, will be building better relationships, more, stronger, genuine, powerful relationships by being grateful for those around you, for what they're doing, who they are, who they're not, so forth and so on. And of course, those relationships, that genuine, powerful, collaborative relationships creates connectivity. It creates, true engagement. And of course, if you're working on all of that, and your people are feeling that, well, it elevates their job satisfaction, their morale, their, happiness in the workplace. And then it impacts everyone's, mental health, self-esteem, confidence, purpose. Their self-worth is built up. Your self-worth is built up. And of course, all of that would just simply help improve your overall health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, just in every aspect. Gratitude is definitely proven to alter your health. All right. What can you do to be more grateful? What can you do to embed gratitude even into your team and then into the culture? Well, first, let's focus on you. All right. You can learn to be more grateful by really being clear of your values, of your beliefs, of those things that are kind of non-negotiable. Because once you really understand what those are, and you live there, and therefore your boundaries ensure that those are protected, and you're able to make decisions better as a result of knowing what your values and beliefs are, and your, kind of no compromise. Your decision making becomes so much better. So if you can get clear there, then as you are experiencing and encountering and acting on your day in, day out, will you find more and more grateful moments, grateful experiences, grateful encounters. All right. So just get really clear on your values and your beliefs and your, non-negotiables. And so then you can live in your, I hate to say your truth, it sounds very woo woo, but you now know what you're going to allow and not allow, which only creates gratefulness. And then we talk about it a lot here, but you really need to understand your why, your purpose, your meaning for getting up each and every day and going out and working as hard as you work. But really understanding your why. Why am I so passionate and so invested in coming to you, each and every week, not only on this podcast, but even in the work that I do each and every day, and the speaking engagements and the writing that I do. My why is because I want to see more of you really living your full purpose, your full why, your having you experience aha moments and deep-seated gratitude in your life, both work and at home. Nothing is more exciting, exhilarating for me than to get feedback that, just one little thing that I said or one little, hard feedback that I provided shifted someone's mindset, shifted someone's behavior, shifted someone's actions for the better. And therefore they achieved, even a partial part of what, they're working so hard to achieve. It's I could go on and start crying again. And then what you could be doing when it comes to living in gratitude is being intentional about it, taking time. It's great that you might keep a gratitude journal. Awesome. Don't stop doing that. And if you haven't started doing it, start doing it. I have to take that piece of advice myself, but be intentional about it. Really sit and be thinking about what are you grateful for? And real quick, my gratefulness right now has to go to a few contractors that I'm working with right now at my house, because I have been screwed over so many times over the last 20 years of living in this home that I just lost a lot of faith, a lot of trust, just a lot of desire to want to do anything when it came to engaging, home contractors. And so right now, as small of a project, that I have going on is the two of them are just so unbelievably genuine and honest and transparent and hopeful and supportive and taking everything off of my shoulders and, helping me get, find sleep again, because for the first several weeks of looking for these contractors, it certainly was many sleepless nights, but I am so grateful that I can trust and I can kind of turn over and be at peace with even this small little project. But I digress. So be intentional about what you are grateful for when you are considering your gratitudes. Okay. But what can you do for your team? What you could be doing for your team is a lot of things. But if I were to pick out even three, remember what I said. Express your gratitude through feedback to your team members. And it doesn't have to be all positive. They will be grateful, moved, shifted, heartfelt if even you tell them where they need to improve, what they haven't been doing, where their gaps are, as much as certainly when they are showing up, when they are expanding themselves and stretching themselves, when they are, kind of going beyond what the expectation is, expressing that as well. But number one would be get them feedback. There's craving for it. Trust me, just as probably you are from your own boss. Then the second one would be take time, intentional time, to actually celebrate those around you that are going over and beyond. Now, that was the other interesting point that many of these employees that I've been talking to over the last 9 months have said is, I don't need recognition for doing my job. That's my job description. But we should be recognizing when there are, people stretching themselves, when they are covering and going way over and beyond what is expected of them. So take time to actually celebrate and recognize individuals. One-on-one is awesome. But of course, if it can be amongst their peers or the senior managers, that's even better. But in public is a beautiful expression of your gratitude. Sincere, genuine gratitude. Don't do it because you have to, check a mark off of a list. And many of those employees that I've mentioned have expressed the fact that it just feels like performance reviews are just a check mark on a list of what managers need to do. Well, that's not a leader. And that's certainly not an expression of genuine gratitude. Okay. And then I would also say that express to others kind of the impact that they have on you. It could be simple. It could be very deep. It could be someone who is a mentor to you or just someone who is a loyal follower, I'll call it, a lieutenant, as some would call it. But really express genuinely how that individual makes you feel, what difference they make in your world, what they bring to you as a leader, or maybe you're just an individual contributor. But make sure that you are not only giving them feedback or recognizing when they've done something good, but really go that next level down, that deeper level, to say, this is the difference you make in my world. This is the difference you make in my day in, day out. And again, going back to those hundreds of employees and managers interviews and conversations that I've had, I would say there was definitely a couple handfuls, maybe a handful and a half, where one person did alter another person's life. Maybe it's just the work life, but there was kind of a difference made, a shift made in some way. And therefore, you would hope that beyond just saying thank you or that I'm grateful, that they actually express the difference that individual made to their life. Because that's a whole different, deeper level of expression, of emotion, of gratefulness. Those are three, because I'm big on just focusing on 1 to 3 that you could be doing right now to both. I had 3 for you to work on yourself when it comes to gratitude, and 3 for what you could be doing to embed gratefulness into your team and into your culture. And if you want tips and a strategy or even a plan of how you can be embedding a culture of gratitude into your team or organization, then book a call and let's talk about it. You can go to coachmebernadette.com/discovery call. I would love to be able to help map out a plan that you could be taking so you can have a practice of gratitude as well as those around you. I will be grateful to have you right back here for another episode of Shedding the Corporate Bitch. Take care.